Welcome back to the John Mathewson podcast. So it's been a little bit. Life sometimes takes us in different directions, but I'm excited to be back. I won't, not on this episode, not catching everybody up on too much of life right now. Just got something on my heart, and so I want to share it. Something that the Lord's been putting in my heart. So that this concept actually came to me in a book I was reading, a book called Men of Fire by Stephen Mansfield. So a group of us men got together and just started reading that together, just talking about what does it look like to be a man, and then not just that, but also like build a band of brothers, like really together. So this book talks a little bit about that, and one of the statements really stuck out to me was vision keeper, and so he talks a little bit about being a vision keeper for a lot of different things, but really his concept and a little bit where we'll talk about today was for other people, not just yourself. So like sometimes we forget that we're, that God has given each of us a vision and that we're responsible for that. And we, in the middle of life, we will lose sight of that vision sometimes. And especially those around us, like this book was talking about, especially the men around us. Sometimes we lose sight. And so it was a challenge for the other men to be that vision keeper, like be the one that keeps that vision, that speaks that over, like, hey, remember who you are, and reminds the other person who you are. And so that was kind of like the general concept. But then I really just took it to a little bit more research and just letting it kind of saturate, like you do sometimes, just the thought. And so I was reminded of Nehemiah in scripture, and I want to lay out a few things about that a vision keeper does. And I want to use Nehemiah's story to kind of do that. And so I kind of want to start with like this thought or concept that every great move of God starts with a burden, not like a branding plan or a budget, but it's a burden. And we see this in Nehemiah. If you go to Nehemiah 1, he is a cupbearer, and I'm not the theological expert guy here, okay? I always give that disclaimer, but he's a cupbearer in the palace. He gets news that his people aren't doing great back in Jerusalem and that the walls are falling down. And it just, like, if you read it, I should have had it pulled up, but I won't make you wait and pull it up. But if you read it, you can just read the text or listen to it in Nehemiah 1, and you can just feel the weight kind of set in on Nehemiah that his people are not doing well. And it just really affects him so much to the point where it says he's there serving the king, and the king notices, like he notices his countenance is down, and he's like, you don't look sick. Like, what's going on? And Nehemiah pours out his heart a little bit and says, well, how can I be well when I get this news of my people back in Jerusalem and they're not doing great? And such a powerful thing to just let that sit, and you just watch it consume him. And I don't know the time frame that passed or anything, right? But it just, that burden, and out of that burden, right, the rest of Nehemiah, we see that he goes back and helps to rebuild the walls, right? Spoiler alert. It's not really spoiler alert, okay? It's in the Bible, so I didn't spoil it for you. Um, but but he lets that burden birth a vision, or more importantly, he lets God take that burden that was in his heart and birth a vision out of it. And so kind of like the first thing I want to point out about being a vision keeper, being that one that says, hey, I remember the vision. I remember, like, I can just feel what Nehemiah was feeling like you guys don't understand. Like, your life is supposed to be so much better. You can be living in freedom and stuff, right? And he just feels that way. Like, have you ever experienced that with walking through something with your friend, or you notice somebody and you just see their countenance and they're walking through life? Or sometimes I see it. I know we're not supposed to judge, but sometimes we see other parents and they're just in a bad spot, and probably because life and stress and all of them, all that stuff gets on us, and we just sometimes parent out of fear or out of scarcity or whatever it is, and it just comes out of us, and I just feel that weight, and I'm like, oh, like, you don't have to live like that. And that burden, you start to feel that burden of like there is a better way, right, to live. And so, like, the first thing that you'll recognize as a being a vision keeper or to be a vision keeper is you feel the burden deeply, right? So in like Nehemiah 1:4, he says, when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. See, a vision keeper doesn't just see problems, they feel them. Like, think about that. Like, we get conditioned a lot of times to just seeing so much, especially in this information age, right? Like, all the information is right there. We get news from across the world, like, almost as soon as it happens, right? And so it starts to condition us that not my problem, not my problem, not my problem, and we kind of lose sight of feeling that. Now, probably for a good thing in some regards. Like, I don't think we're supposed to feel all that. We weren't necessarily supposed to have all the information, right? Tree of knowledge of good and evil. We're not. So I think that's okay. But what it does, though, in on the other side of things, is when we see things around us, we've already disassociated. We're already in the habit of disassociating it, regardless of if we can help that person or not. And we don't feel that. We just lose that empathy, really, is what I'm talking about here, right? And a vision keeper is one that sees a problem, but they don't just see a problem. They feel it, like they feel something inside. And then what do you do with that, right? Very important, I think, this next step, what you do with that. Because if you're not careful, you can let that lead to things that aren't healthy. You can let that lead to unhealthy weight that you pick up or unhealthy um, going and doing something and you're not really authorized to go do that yet, right? And so I think the thing to keep in mind here is that we see Nehemiah do here, and one is he sat down and he wept for days, he mourned and fasted, and he prayed before the God of heaven. And so I think it's that they don't just see the problem, they feel it, and then they take it to God and they say, "What do you want me to do with this?" Right? You've put this burden on me. You've put this in my heart. What do you want me to know about this? And you wrestle with these tough questions and you ask these questions about what is it? And I think that's one of the very first things that a vision keeper does. And so here, each one of these are going to have a little application, right, for you and a little question. And so here's the question I want you to ask yourself, because this, a lot of times, is what can really lead to what your purpose is in life. And it's not just a carte blanche answer to know that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but it's a good question to continue to ask yourself. And so it's like, what injustice or gap in the world has God allowed you to feel deeply? Like, there's things that when you see it, you just feel it right away. And use that. A lot of times, that's a seed that the Lord is planting and using to create vision out of what He wants to do through you or with you. And so pay attention to that. When you don't have to totally focus on it, but you feel that immediately, that should be an indicator to be like, oh man, Lord, show me, what are you doing here? Like, what's the vision that you want coming out of this? So first thing I see about being a vision keeper is that they feel the burden deeply. Okay. Next is I see that they carry it. So this is really important too. So Nehemiah 2, right? Now we're a little bit later. He said, I had not told anyone what God put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. And so, like, again, I don't know how much time passed, but there was a period of time here where he wrestled with it in his heart between he and God. And so I'll raise my hand and say, like, I'm the first one usually. Like, I have an entrepreneur mind. And so sometimes we just see a problem, bam, we can fix it, go do it. And we just run and do. And then, 2 years later, I'm like, oh, I went way down this rabbit hole. I never even stopped to ask the Lord, like, is this something you want me to handle? Or is this just something that my own flesh wanted to go try and do and solve? And so I think what we see is that that a vision keeper carries it privately before they go out and broadcast it. And God uses this time to refine that idea. I had in a prayer time the other morning, I had an idea come to my mind that I felt that, right? I felt that burden and I saw a possible solution. And I even took the step to reach out to someone that would have something to do with that solution. And I was like, hey, I just want you to know this was a thought that I think the Lord gave me. I don't want to do anything. I'm not doing anything with it yet. I just need to give this a few weeks to see what the Lord is doing with it. But I just want to see if this is something that you have thought about before. And so in the past, I don't think I would have done that. I just would have rent and started. I probably would have bought a domain and gone and done all this stuff and not listened. And so I think a vision keeper, they carry that for a little bit, that seed that God started in them. And so carry it. Like the other thing to note here, right? Your practical application is that to realize for those people around you, a lot of times vision keepers are often quiet carriers before they become bold leaders. So don't judge yourself too harshly. Sometimes we feel that pull, like we're supposed to be that bold leader out doing things. And like God is using this time to refine that vision a little bit more. So carry it. Be the keeper of that vision. Don't let it die. Don't not focus on it. Don't forget it. But be the keeper of it and ask and wrestle and carry that vision until God can continue to refine it and we can get a better understanding of what He's trying to do with it. Okay, so far we've got they feel the burden deeply, they carry it. So feel it, carry it. Next is we see that they cast it and we invite others into it. So here later in Nehemiah 2, he said, "Then I said to them, 'Come,'" right? Inviting other people. Okay, now I felt it. I took it to God. I carried it. I let God refine it and how He wants to do it. And now, boom, doors are open. Hey, come, let's rebuild this wall of Jerusalem. And they replied, yeah, let's start building it, right? And so the next thing at some point, vision keepers invite other people to be a part of that vision. And so vision keepers move people from apathy to action. And I think this is so critical to why we should follow this process of feeling it deeply, like that empathy, because that's what's going to help pull others from their apathy or their state of not really doing things. It's going to help pull them to action. But if you haven't let it burn deeply in you and you don't get passionate about it and you don't let God refine it and you don't carry it for a little bit, then it's going to be harder to pull others from apathy because you yourself aren't fully that connected to it. And when you know you're connected to it and God's connected to it and He's refined it and helped you craft it, now you're birthing it out of like authorization from the Lord. Then it doesn't matter if people tell you no or not, like you're just responding out of obedience. And so that's the other thing we see is that vision keepers move people from apathy to action. And so here's the question to ask yourself on this one. Who needs you to speak hope and possibility over what's ruined in their life? Ask that again. Who needs you to speak hope and possibility over what's been ruined in their life? Okay, let me just talk to the fathers or husbands right now. I think this is one of the highest callings that we have as men. Okay, we have the ability, everybody does, but let's just focus on us right now. We have the ability to speak that vision over people. When our wife loses sight of her identity, Satan attacks the women's identity, okay? It's no secret. He's been doing this for ages. And so when they lose sight or it gets foggy of their identity, be the vision keeper for your wife. Speak that hope and possibility and identity into your wife. Call it out of her and be that vision keeper when your child messes up and they make a bad decision, right? Be the father that speaks hope and identity into your child versus cutting down, slashing, and belittling, right? That comes so easy. I get it. Take an extra second and say, whoa, 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 hey, but that's not who you are. Like, you don't do that. You don't experience fear. You don't make choices out of fear. You don't make choices because so-and-so did it. You are bold. You are brave. You walk in truth. You are a follower of Jesus. And you just pull it out of them. You will watch your child, all of a sudden, their countenance that was all shriveled up in shame and guilt is all of a sudden going to say yes. And what's happening? Like, what's happening in this moment? You are walking them out of an agreement. And you could be saving years of their life because in that moment, they're sitting in agreement with the fact that they're a bad kid. They made a bad choice. They always make bad choices, right? We've all been there. Let's not pretend that we're better than everybody else. So be the vision keeper to your child. Speak that life into them. Speak who they actually are who God created them to be, and watch their countenance and their shoulders get back and their head get back up as they start to separate and then cast out that old identity from the accuser. You have that power, man. That's one of the most powerful things I think we can do as dads, husbands, fathers, coaches, mentors, leaders, business owners. Speak that into your employees. It will radically revolutionize your business if instead of yelling at an employee or belittling an employee, embarrassing them, being sarcastic with them in front of, and trying to be all witty in front of them, speak to who they are. Speak to the truth of who they were created to be. It will radically change their countenance and change what they're in agreement with, okay? That's my rabbit trail. But back to cast it, right? Bring other people into that, right? Be the vision, keep that vision, and then invite other people to be a part of it. Okay, last, we can't talk about vision without talking about we need to guard it, right? So Nehemiah 4:16, okay, they're at the wall, right? Half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. Vision will always attract resistance every time, especially when we're talking about in spiritual warfare here, okay? Because let's be real, that's the ground floor where we really need to get to, right? Vision will always attract resistance, and so it's our responsibility to guard it. It should not be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised when we start birthing a vision and calling other people to it that we meet resistance. Oh, guess God's not in it. No. God is in it. That's a good sign that he is in it because you're meeting resistance from the prince of this earth, right? Saying, whoa, that we don't operate like this on this earth. You're right, because I'm operating like a kingdom, right? And those two clash. There's a spirit. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? Okay, so you should be facing opposition, okay? A true vision keeper guards the work, not just with passion, like, yeah, this is my vision, but also being prepared. Like, equip yourself. How do you go into the day? I was recently convicted big time. I was asking the Lord for more and to open my eyes more so I could see more. And I got convicted because he said, well, what are you doing with what I did give you? Are you creating space for what I have given you already? And I was like, oh man, like I'm not going into my day as prepared as I can be. I'm not even going to bed as prepared as I could be. I read this book by John Eldridge, and he just really gave these powerful prayers about breaking off things that you encountered through the day and you don't even realize it, but you take it to bed with you, and then it attacks you all night during the sleep, and then you wake up with it, and like it gets this perpetual thing. And I'm like, I've been fighting on my knees, I feel like. And so I've been praying these powerful prayers, and reach out to me if you would like a copy of those, because he gave some resources, and they're so powerful. They're longer, but it's powerful, breaking off things and saying like, okay, let's be prepared to get rest at night. Let's be prepared to conquer what's coming this day. But so often we just wake up and head out today like any other day, and we get surprised when opposition comes. Come on, like let's be prepared for it, right? So what opposition, here's the question on this one. What opposition has tried to stop what you're building? And are you equipped to fight for that vision? So get practical about it. Whatever oppositions you've been facing that's hitting this vision, get practical about it. Go to war over it. Be prepared. Get on your knees in prayer. Cut off these things. Like, come out of alignment. Okay? Here's our 4 things, right? About being a vision keeper. Every one of us need to be a vision keeper. Look, there's enough negativity. I don't know if I need to drive this point anymore, but like there's enough negativity going on in our world, right? We don't need another person coming alongside saying that ain't going to work. You always do that. So-and-so did this. We don't need more of that. That's just, that is the culture that is around us. Like, let's be different, right? What would happen if we were just the optimistic person that was the vision keeper and said, no, that's not who you are. You don't always do that. You did that in the past, right? You did that. You made that decision in the past, but that's not who you are. It doesn't define you. How do you get defined? My Father defines who you are. And I see that you're a true husband. Like, you're a loving husband. You show up for your family. You provide for your family. You love them deeply. You're consistent for them. and you speak to who they are, not what they experience and not the decisions that they think define them. Be that vision keeper. Be the one in your family. Be the one in your marriage. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Like, you step up and you be the one. And maybe I'm not just talking to the men right now. Like, maybe you're a spouse, a wife hearing this, and your husband isn't. He's fallen asleep and he's stuck in a rut. Okay, you be the vision keeper. You be the one that comes alongside of him and says, "Hey, remember who you are. Like, I remember that." I just had the Lion King, right? Remember Simba. Anyway, sorry, that was a rabbit trail, but it went through my brain and I wanted to share it. But why is you be the one that speaks to your husband and says, "Hey, I know who you are. That's not who you are. You're not somebody who just lays down and doesn't do anything. You take action. You have responsibility. You are responsible, and you speak that life into them and you call that identity. You be the keeper of that vision." So do those things. Feel it, carry it, cast it, guard it. I'm a little fired up now. I don't know how to end it, okay? But this world needs more vision keepers, okay? Be a vision keeper. We need you.